Desperate times call for desperate measures, and Marcus Hartwell was beyond desperate. Before we begin, leave a comment telling us what city you're watching from. And at the end, don't forget to rate this story from 0 to 10. Enjoy the story. Marcus stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows of his penthouse, phone pressed to his ear, jaw clenched so tight it ached. His mother's voice came through the speaker with that particular tone she used when she'd already made up her mind and was simply informing him of his obligations. "Darling, the party is tomorrow night. You will be there at 7 sharp and you will bring someone appropriate." "Mother, I told you I'm coming alone." "Vanessa will be there," Eleanor Hartwell continued as if he hadn't spoken. "She asked about you specifically. Such a lovely girl. I never did understand why you two—" "We broke up because she was sleeping with Charles Preston 2 months before our wedding," Marcus said flatly. "I thought that was fairly clear." "People make mistakes. She's sorry, Marcus. She said so multiple times." "I'm sure she is. Sorry that Preston's development deal fell through and she needs a new target." There was a pause. Then his mother's voice came back, sharp as cut glass. "Regardless of your cynicism, you're not spending my 70th birthday sulking in a corner alone. Bring someone, anyone. Just don't embarrass me by showing up without a date like some pathetic bachelor who can't move on." The line went dead. Marcus stared at his phone, resisting the urge to throw it through the window. His mother had perfected the art of the guilt trip over 7 decades, and she wielded it like a surgeon wielded a scalpel. The problem was simple. He didn't have anyone to bring. His social circle overlapped entirely with Vanessa's. Every woman he knew was either connected to his business, intimidated by his mother, or interested in his bank account more than anything else. He needed someone who didn't know his world, didn't care about impressing anyone, and could handle his mother's razor-sharp assessments without falling apart. He needed someone who had nothing to lose and nothing to prove. That's when he heard the humming. Marcus turned from the window and saw her, the housekeeper, the one who came 3 times a week to clean his apartment. She was dusting the bookshelf near his rarely used grand piano, humming something classical under her breath. Mozart, maybe, or Chopin. He'd never paid enough attention to know the difference. He'd also never paid enough attention to her. She was just part of the background, like the furniture or the artwork his decorator had chosen. She showed up, did her job quietly, and left. He didn't even remember her name. But looking at her now with desperate calculation rather than casual dismissal, he noticed things. She moved with a certain grace. Her posture was straight, almost elegant. She wasn't wearing anything fancy, just simple black pants and a white shirt, the standard uniform of the cleaning service. But she carried herself with dignity. More importantly, she was nobody. She didn't run in his circles. She wouldn't have expectations. She wouldn't know Vanessa or care about the social politics of his mother's party. And after tomorrow night, they'd never have to think about this arrangement again. It was perfect. Desperate, ridiculous, and completely inappropriate, but perfect. "You," Marcus called out, walking toward her. "What's your name again?" The housekeeper jumped slightly, nearly dropping her dusting cloth. She turned to face him, surprise clear on her face. "Sophia," she said. "Sophia Laurent. I've been cleaning your apartment for 6 months, Mr. Hartwell." 6 months. He'd hired her 6 months ago and never bothered to learn her name. In his defense, he was rarely home when she worked, and when he was usually locked in his home office on conference calls. Still, 6 months. "Right, Sophia?" Marcus studied her more carefully now. She had dark hair pulled back in a practical ponytail, brown eyes that were currently watching him with wary confusion, and a face that was pretty in an understated way. Not magazine cover beautiful like Vanessa, but naturally attractive. Real. She was still staring at him, waiting for him to explain why he'd suddenly acknowledged her existence. I need to ask you something, Marcus said, then paused, realizing how insane this was about to sound. It's going to seem unusual. Okay, Sophia said slowly, setting down her dusting cloth. Is something wrong with the cleaning? Because I can... No, the cleaning is fine. This is something else entirely. Marcus took a breath. Just say it. Get it over with. I need a date for tomorrow night, my mother's birthday party, and I'm willing to pay you $10,000 for a few hours of your time. Sophia blinked. Then she laughed. It was a genuine laugh, surprised and slightly nervous, like she thought he was joking and wasn't quite sure how to respond to such a strange joke. I'm sorry, she said, still smiling. Is this how rich people entertain themselves, making jokes at the help's expense? I'm completely serious, Marcus said. My mother's 70th birthday party, tomorrow night. You pretend to be my girlfriend for the evening, I pay you $10,000. The smile faded from Sophia's face. She looked at him for a long moment, her expression shifting from amusement to something harder to read. You want to rent me, she said quietly, like a designer handbag to match your outfit. I want to pay you extremely well for your time, Marcus corrected. It's a business arrangement. Nothing more complicated than that. A business arrangement, Sophia repeated. She crossed her arms, and Marcus noticed for the first time that her hands were red and slightly rough from cleaning chemicals. You want me to pretend to be your girlfriend at a family party for money. $10,000, Marcus said again, emphasizing the amount. Cash. Tomorrow. I'll have an appropriate dress sent to your apartment. You just need to show up, look presentable, and stay by my side for a few hours. Sophia's jaw tightened. Look presentable, she echoed. Your expectations of me are truly inspiring, Mr. Hartwell. There was an edge to her voice now, something sharp and intelligent that caught Marcus off guard. This wasn't the quiet, invisible housekeeper he'd been ignoring for 6 months. This was someone with opinions and pride and a backbone. Good. His mother would eat alive anyone who seemed weak or intimidated. I didn't mean it as an insult, Marcus said, though he realized too late that it absolutely had been insulting. I just meant that you'd need to look like you belong at a high society event, evening wear. Nothing too flashy, elegant but understated. I know what evening wear is, Sophia said. I'm not an idiot. I never said you were. You just assumed I wouldn't know how to dress myself for a fancy party. Marcus ran a hand through his hair, frustrated. This was going badly. Look, I'm making this more complicated than it needs to be. It's simple. You come to my mother's party as my date. You're polite. You smile when necessary. You don't have to do anything except exist next to me for a few hours. In exchange, you get $10,000. That's more than you make in 2 months of cleaning, I imagine. Sophia went very still. 3 months, she said quietly. 10,000 is what I make in 3 months, after taxes. Marcus saw the shift in her eyes. She was calculating now the same way he did when evaluating a business deal. The anger was still there, simmering under the surface, but it was competing with something else. Need, maybe, or opportunity. Why me? Sophia asked. You must know dozens of women who would jump at the chance to go to a party with you. Women who actually know how to navigate your world. That's exactly why I don't want them, Marcus said honestly. Everyone I know wants something. They see dollar signs or business connections or social advancement. You don't know anyone in my world. You don't care about any of that. You're just outside of it all. You mean I'm nobody, Sophia said. I mean you're not looking to use me for something, Marcus replied. After tomorrow night, we go back to exactly how things were. You clean my apartment. I pay you your regular rate. This is a one-time transaction that benefits us both. Sophia was quiet for a long moment, her gaze distant. Marcus wondered what she was thinking about. What did someone need $10,000 for so badly that they'd consider such a ridiculous offer? "I need the money for something important," Sophia finally said, not looking at him. "My mother. She's in a memory care facility, the good kind, the one where they actually treat patients like human beings. It costs $8,000 a month." Marcus felt something uncomfortable twist in his chest. Guilt, maybe, or recognition that her life had complications he'd never bothered to consider. "I'm behind on payments," Sophia continued, her voice steady but soft. "If I can't catch up within 30 days, they'll transfer her to a state facility. I've seen those places, Mr. Hartwell. They're not where anyone should spend their final years." "I'm sorry," Marcus said, and meant it. "I don't want your pity," Sophia said sharply, meeting his eyes again. "I'm telling you why I'm considering your ridiculous offer. $10,000 would catch me up on payments and give me 1 month ahead. It would buy me breathing room." "Then we have a deal?" Sophia studied him for another long moment. "I have conditions." "What kind of conditions?" "I'll pretend to be your girlfriend," Sophia said. "I'll be polite to your mother and smile at your guests and play whatever role you need me to play. But I won't pretend to be someone I'm not." "What does that mean?" "It means if anyone asks me what I do for a living, I'm telling the truth," Sophia said firmly. "I'm not going to lie and say I'm an executive or a socialite or whatever you want me to pretend to be. I clean houses. I'm not ashamed of earning an honest living, and I won't act like I am." Marcus frowned. "That would defeat the entire purpose of bringing you. The point is for my mother to think I'm dating someone appropriate. Someone from your own tax bracket," Sophia said dryly. "Someone who fits into my world," Marcus said. "Look, it's just for 1 night. Can't you just be vague about it? Tell people you work in hospitality or property services or something equally boring that will make them lose interest?" "I'm not going to lie," Sophia repeated. "Take it or leave it, Mr. Hartwell. Those are my terms." Marcus wanted to argue, but looking at the stubborn set of her jaw, he knew it would be pointless. Besides, she had a point. No one at the party would actually care enough to dig deeper. They'd ask the polite question, get a polite answer, and move on to more interesting topics, like themselves. "Fine," Marcus said, "but no one's going to ask anyway. Rich people mostly just talk about themselves." "Rich people love finding out what everyone else does for a living," Sophia countered. "It makes them feel important. Trust me, Mr. Hartwell, I clean their houses, I hear their conversations, they always ask." Marcus realized she probably knew more about how his social class behaved than he did. She saw them when their guards were down, when they thought no one was paying attention. "All right," he said. "If someone asks, you tell the truth. But try to be diplomatic about it." "I'm always diplomatic," Sophia said. "It's a survival skill when you work in service." Marcus pulled out his phone. "Give me your address. I'll have the dress delivered by tomorrow afternoon. And your phone number. I'll need to coordinate pickup. Time." Sophia rattled off both, and Marcus typed them into his contacts. For the first time in 6 months, Sophia Laurent was more than just housekeeper in his phone. "What time?" she asked. "I'll pick you up at 6:30. The party starts at 7, but my mother will expect me early." "And the money?" Marcus walked to his desk, pulled out his checkbook, and wrote a check for $5,000. He brought it back to Sophia and held it out. "Half now," he said. "The other half when the evening is over and you fulfilled your end of the arrangement." Sophia looked at the check, then at him. "You trust me not to just take this and disappear?" "Do I have a reason not to trust you?" "You don't know me well enough to make that judgment," Sophia pointed out. But she took the check, folded it carefully, and tucked it into her pocket. The other half when I've earned it, Mr. Hartwell. I don't take money I haven't worked for." She picked up her cleaning supplies and headed toward the door, then paused and looked back at him. "I should warn you about something." "What?" "Your mother is going to see through this in about 5 seconds, Sophia said. Mothers always know when their children are lying, especially smart mothers, and I'm guessing yours is very smart. "Let me worry about my mother," Marcus said. "It's your disaster," Sophia said with a shrug. "I'll just be there to watch it unfold. See you tomorrow night, Mr. Hartwell." She left, closing the door quietly behind her. Marcus stood alone in his apartment, staring at the space where she'd been, wondering if he'd just made the best decision or the worst mistake of his life. Probably both, he decided, but desperate times called for desperate measures, and Marcus Hartwell had run out of better options. Tomorrow night would be interesting, if nothing else. The next evening, Sophia stood in her small apartment, staring at the dress hanging on her closet door. It wasn't the dress Marcus had promised to send. That had arrived in a garment bag from some boutique she'd never heard of, wrapped in tissue paper that probably cost more than her monthly grocery budget. She'd looked at it for exactly 3 seconds before hanging it back up and reaching for her own dress instead. The black dress she pulled out had history. 5 years ago, she'd worn it to her final recital at Juilliard. Her grandfather Henri had been in the audience that night, beaming with pride. Her mother had cried happy tears, clutching the program like it was precious. The future had seemed so bright then, so full of possibility. Sophia ran her hand over the fabric, feeling the memories woven into every thread. She'd been someone different in this dress. Someone with dreams and talent and a clear path forward. Now she was someone who cleaned other people's homes and borrowed money from strangers to keep her mother in a decent facility. But she was still herself. Still Sophia Laurent, granddaughter of Henri Laurent, trained at one of the best music schools in the world. The dress reminded her of that. It reminded her that working 3 jobs to care for her mother wasn't something to be ashamed of. It was something to be proud of. She put on the dress. It still fit perfectly. Simple, elegant, timeless. Everything Marcus's designer dress wasn't. Sophia was putting the final touches on her makeup when her doorbell rang. 6:30 exactly. At least the man was punctual. She grabbed her small clutch and opened the door. Marcus stood in the hallway wearing a perfectly tailored tuxedo that probably cost more than her entire year's rent. His hair was styled, his shoes were polished to a mirror shine, and he looked every inch the wealthy CEO he was. His eyes widened slightly when he saw her. "I sent a dress. Why aren't you wearing—" He stopped mid-sentence, actually looking at her for the first time. Really looking. Sophia raised an eyebrow. "This is what I'm wearing." "Problem?" "No," Marcus said, recovering quickly. "No problem. You look appropriate." "High praise indeed," Sophia said dryly, closing her apartment door behind her. "Try not to overwhelm me with compliments, Mr. Hartwell." "I meant you look nice," Marcus said, flustered in a way she hadn't seen before. "The dress is fine, good even. It's just not what I expected." "You expected me to wear the dress you picked out like a doll you're dressing up?" "I expected you to wear something that cost more than $50. Sophia smiled sweetly as they walked toward the elevator. "This dress cost me 3 years at Juilliard and a grandfather who believed I could be great. I'd say that makes it considerably more valuable than whatever you sent over." Marcus was quiet for a moment. "Juilliard? We have a 40-minute drive, Mr. Hartwell. Plenty of time for you to ask all the questions you should have asked 6 months ago." They got into Marcus's car, a sleek black sedan that probably had more computing power than most people's laptops. Sophia settled into the leather seat, trying not to be impressed by the luxury. She'd cleaned enough rich people's homes to know that expensive things were just things. They didn't make you happy or loved or fulfilled. Marcus started driving, and for the first few minutes neither of them spoke. Then he broke the silence. So, Juilliard. Full scholarship, Sophia said, looking out the window at the city passing by. Piano performance. I was in my 3rd year when my grandfather had a stroke. I'm sorry. He recovered mostly. But then my mother started showing signs of early onset Alzheimer's. She was only 52. Sophia kept her voice even, factual. I came home to take care of them both. My grandfather died 2 years ago. My mother doesn't remember who I am most days. But you still visit her. Every week. Sometimes she has good days where she recognizes me. Those days are worth everything. Marcus was quiet for a moment. You gave up Juilliard for your family. I gave up a dream for something more important, Sophia corrected. Not everyone gets to choose between their dreams and their family, Mr. Hartwell. I chose family. I don't regret it. That's impressive. Sophia turned to look at him. Don't do that. Do what? Look at me like I'm some kind of noble martyr. I did what anyone would do. I took care of the people I love. There's nothing impressive about basic human decency. Most people I know wouldn't have done it, Marcus said quietly. They would have hired someone, found a facility, kept pursuing their own goals. Then you know the wrong people. Marcus almost smiled at that. You're probably right. They drove in comfortable silence for a while. Then Marcus said, We should go over the rules again, just so we're clear. You mean your rules, Sophia said. I already gave you mine. Stay by my side, be polite to everyone, especially my mother. Don't mention that I'm paying you. Obviously. And try not to antagonize anyone, particularly my ex-fiancée. Sophia perked up. Your ex-fiancée will be there? This gets more interesting by the minute. Her name is Vanessa Sterling. She'll be polite to your face and vicious behind your back. Just ignore her. What happened between you two? She was sleeping with my business rival 2 months before our wedding, Marcus said flatly. I found out when his assistant accidentally sent me an email meant for him. It included hotel receipts and some rather explicit details about their weekend getaway. Ouch. My mother still likes her, thinks it was just cold feet, that I should forgive her and move on. And that's why you need a fake girlfriend, Sophia realized, to prove you have moved on. Exactly. Sophia studied his profile as he drove. You know this is a terrible plan, right? Lying to your mother never ends well. I'm not lying. I am bringing a date. You're bringing your housekeeper and paying her $10,000 to pretend to be your girlfriend. That's not a date, Mr. Hartwell. That's a poorly thought-out scheme. Do you want the money or not? I want the money, Sophia admitted. I just want you to know I think you're going to regret this. Noted. They drove through increasingly upscale neighborhoods until they reached an area where the houses were hidden behind gates, and the lawns looked like they required full-time gardeners. Marcus turned onto a private drive that wound through perfectly manicured grounds. The Hartwell estate appeared at the end of the drive, and Sophia couldn't help but stare. It was a mansion in the truest sense, all stone and columns and windows that probably cost more than most people's entire houses. This is where you grew up? Sophia asked. Every summer and holiday. My parents had a place in the city too, but my mother preferred it here. It's beautiful, Sophia said honestly. Terrifying, but beautiful. Marcus parked among a row of expensive cars. Before they got out, he turned to her. Last chance to back out. You already gave me half the money, Sophia pointed out. I'm committed. Are you nervous? Terrified, Sophia admitted. But I've performed for harder audiences. At least your mother's guests won't be grading my technique. Don't be so sure about that, Marcus said. My mother grades everything. They got out of the car and Marcus offered his arm. Sophia took it, feeling the solid muscle beneath the expensive fabric of his tuxedo. They walked up the front steps together and Sophia noticed he was walking slower than necessary, like he was giving her time to prepare. Breathe, Marcus said quietly. You'll be fine. I know I will, Sophia said. I'm more worried about you, Mr. Hartwell. The front doors opened before they reached them and they stepped into a grand entrance hall with marble floors and a chandelier that probably required a crane to install. Staff members moved efficiently through the space, carrying champagne and hors d'oeuvres. The sound of conversation and laughter drifted from somewhere deeper in the house. And standing at the center of it all, receiving guests like a queen holding court, was Eleanor Hartwell. Sophia had expected someone intimidating. What she hadn't expected was someone quite so beautiful. Eleanor was in her 70s, but she wore her age like armor. Her silver hair was styled in an elegant updo, her dress was a deep burgundy that complemented her still striking features, and her posture was ramrod straight. But it was her eyes that caught Sophia's attention. Sharp, intelligent, and currently focused entirely on the woman holding her son's arm. Marcus, Eleanor said, her voice carrying across the space, you're late. By 3 minutes, Mother. 3 minutes is still late. Eleanor's gaze shifted to Sophia, and Sophia felt herself being evaluated with surgical precision. And who is this? Mother. This is Sophia Laurent, Marcus said, and Sophia heard the slight tension in his voice. Sophia. My mother Eleanor. Sophia released Marcus's arm and stepped forward, extending her hand. It's lovely to meet you, Mrs. Hartwell. Happy birthday. Eleanor took her hand, her grip firm. Laurent. French? My grandfather was French, Sophia said. He emigrated to New York in his 20s. Eleanor was still holding her hand, still assessing. And what do you do, Sophia? Sophia felt Marcus tense beside her. This was the moment, the test she'd warned him about. I work for Marcus, actually, Sophia said, keeping her voice pleasant and her expression open. Eleanor's eyebrows rose slightly. In what capacity? Before Sophia could answer, a voice called out from across the entrance hall. Marcus, you came. Sophia turned to see a stunning blonde woman approaching, her designer dress showing off a figure that had probably required both personal trainers and professional help. Her smile was brilliant. Her teeth were impossibly white, and her eyes were calculating as they swept over Sophia. This had to be Vanessa. Vanessa, Marcus said, his tone carefully neutral. It's so good to see you, Vanessa said, kissing the air near Marcus's cheek. Then she turned to Sophia with the same brilliant smile. And you brought a friend. How nice. I don't think we've met. Sophia Laurent, Sophia said, not offering her hand. Vanessa Sterling, the blonde said anyway. Such an interesting name, Sophia, so exotic sounding. What do you do, darling? I work for Marcus, Sophia repeated, aware that Eleanor was still listening intently. Oh, how modern. Vanessa's eyes lit up with what looked like genuine delight. Mixing business with pleasure? That's very 21st century of you both. Sophia realized Vanessa thought she meant she worked as Marcus's assistant or in his company. She was about to correct that assumption when Eleanor spoke. Sophia was just about to tell me exactly what she does, Eleanor said, her tone making it clear this wasn't a casual question. Marcus opened his mouth, probably to interrupt or redirect, but Sophia spoke first. I clean houses, Mrs. Hartwell, she said clearly. I'm a housekeeper. I work for Marcus 3 days a week maintaining his penthouse apartment. The silence that followed was profound. Vanessa's smile froze on her face. Marcus looked like he wanted the marble floor to open up and swallow him. And Eleanor's expression was completely unreadable. Then Eleanor did something unexpected. She smiled, not a big smile, just a small, knowing curve of her lips. "A housekeeper," Eleanor repeated. "How refreshing. Please come in properly. Marcus, take Sophia to the garden. The party is in full swing and I have other guests to greet." She released Sophia's hand and moved past them to welcome an arriving couple. Just before she stepped away, Eleanor leaned close to Sophia and whispered, "Very few people have the courage to tell me the truth, Miss Laurent. I appreciate honesty." Then she was gone, greeting the next guests with the same regal courtesy. Vanessa recovered her composure quickly. "A housekeeper," she said, her voice dripping with false sweetness. "How wonderfully down to earth. Marcus always did have a charitable streak. Excuse me, I should go say hello to Eleanor properly." She swept away, leaving Marcus and Sophia standing alone in the entrance hall. "Well," Sophia said, "that went about as badly as I predicted." "My mother smiled," Marcus said, sounding confused. "She never smiles at people she doesn't like." "Maybe she appreciates that I didn't lie to her. Or maybe she's planning something," Marcus muttered. "Come on, let's get this over with." He offered his arm again, and this time Sophia took it with more confidence. They walked through the house toward the garden where the sounds of the party grew louder. "You could have been more subtle," Marcus said quietly. "You wanted subtle? You should have hired an actress, Mr. Hartwell. I told you I wouldn't lie." "I know. I just hoped you'd be more diplomatic." "I was extremely diplomatic," Sophia said. "I could have mentioned that I also clean the bathrooms. That would have been less diplomatic." Despite himself, Marcus laughed. "You're enjoying this, aren't you?" "More than I expected to," Sophia admitted. They stepped out into the garden and Sophia paused to take in the scene. The backyard was transformed into something from a magazine spread. String lights were woven through the trees, creating a canopy of golden light. Round tables covered in white linens dotted the lawn, each with elaborate floral centerpieces. A small orchestra played classical music from a raised platform, and waiters circulated with champagne and canapes. And everywhere, dressed in designer clothes and dripping with jewelry, were the guests. Sophia recognized the type from the houses she cleaned, wealthy, confident, and utterly convinced of their own importance. "Ready?" Marcus asked. "As I'll ever be." They walked into the party together, and Sophia felt dozens of eyes turned toward them. She kept her head high and her expression pleasant, channeling every performance she'd ever given at Juilliard. This was just another stage, another audience to win over. She could do this. She'd faced harder challenges than a garden party full of rich people. At least, that's what she told herself as Vanessa Sterling watched them from across the lawn, her smile sharp as a knife. The garden party was in full swing, and Sophia found herself navigating conversations with the kind of careful attention she usually reserved for carrying a full tray of crystal glasses. One wrong move, one misstep, and everything could shatter. Marcus stayed close to her side, his hand occasionally touching the small of her back to guide her through the crowd. Every time he did it, Sophia reminded herself it was part of the act. He was playing the attentive boyfriend, nothing more. They were approached by a series of guests, each more polished than the last. Business associates asking Marcus about developments and market trends, family friends inquiring about his mother's health and his own romantic life with barely concealed nosiness. Society women evaluating Sophia with the precision of gemologists examining a questionable diamond. Sophia handled each interaction with calm grace, answering questions when asked and staying quiet when not. She learned in her years of service work that rich people love to talk about themselves. All you had to do was smile, nod, and occasionally make an interested sound. but she could feel Vanessa circling like a shark that had scented blood in the water. It was about an hour into the party when Vanessa made her move. She positioned herself near a group of women who were discussing the staff, loud enough that Sophia couldn't help but overhear. "It's so hard to find good help these days," Vanessa said, examining her champagne glass. "I swear the last housekeeper I had couldn't tell the difference between Waterford crystal and cheap glass. No appreciation for quality." One of the other women laughed. "That's because people who do manual labor lack ambition, don't you think? If they had any drive, they'd better themselves instead of cleaning up after others." Sophia felt Marcus tense beside her. His hand tightened slightly on her back, and she knew he'd heard it too. He was waiting to see how she'd react. She could stay quiet. Let it pass. That would be the safe choice, the diplomatic choice. But Sophia had never been particularly good at staying quiet when someone was being cruel. She turned toward the group, keeping her expression pleasant. Then, in perfect German, she said, "Es ist nicht die Arbeit, die entwürdigt, sondern die Behandlung derer, die sie tun." The women stopped talking and stared at her. Vanessa's smile faltered. "I'm sorry," one of the women said. "Was that German?" "It was," Sophia confirmed, switching back to English. "Beethoven said it about his patrons who look down on working musicians. It is not the work that degrades, but the treatment of those who do it." She looked directly at Vanessa. He understood that dignity comes from character, not from the job you do. It's a lesson that's apparently still relevant 200 years later. There was a moment of stunned silence. Then one of the older women in the group laughed, a genuine sound of delight. "Well said, my dear," she said, raising her glass to Sophia. "And perfectly delivered. Do you speak German fluently?" "I studied music in Europe for a time," Sophia said. "My grandfather believed that musicians should learn the languages of the great composers. German for Beethoven and Brahms, Italian for the opera composers, French for Debussy and Ravel." "How many languages do you speak?" another woman asked, now genuinely interested rather than dismissive. "4 fluently," Sophia said. "English, French, German, and Italian, some Spanish, but I wouldn't call myself fluent." Marcus was staring at her like he'd never seen her before, which Sophia supposed he hadn't. Not really. Vanessa recovered her composure, but her smile was tighter now. "How impressive. I didn't realize housekeepers needed to be multilingual these days." "They don't," Sophia said easily. "But pianists do, or at least the good ones do." "You're a pianist?" one of the women asked. "I was trained as one," Sophia said. "Life took me in a different direction." Before anyone could ask more questions, Eleanor appeared at Sophia's elbow. She'd been so quiet in her approach that Sophia jumped slightly. "Sophia, dear, would you walk with me for a moment?" Eleanor asked, though it wasn't really a question. "I'd like to show you the garden properly." "Of course," Sophia said. Eleanor guided her away from the group, and Sophia was aware of dozens of eyes following them. Being singled out by Eleanor Hartwell was clearly significant, though Sophia wasn't sure if it was good or bad. They walked in silence for a moment, Eleanor's heels clicking softly on the stone pathway that wound through the garden. Finally, Eleanor spoke. "You quoted Beethoven, in German." "Yes, to put Vanessa Sterling in her place." "To make a point about dignity," Sophia corrected. "The fact that it also put Vanessa in her place was just a bonus." Eleanor smiled, and this time it reached her eyes. "I like you, Sophia Laurent. You have spine. Most of the women Marcus has brought here over the years were either terrified of me or trying too hard to impress me. You're doing neither. Should I be trying to impress you?" "It wouldn't work if you tried," Eleanor said. "I've been evaluating people for 70 years. I can spot insincerity from across a room." They reached a small gazebo at the edge of the garden away from the main party. Eleanor sat on one of the benches and gestured for Sophia to join her. "Tell me about your mother," Eleanor said. Sophia hesitated, then sat. "What would you like to know?" Marcus mentioned in passing that she's ill. He didn't provide details, but I could tell it matters to you. "Early onset Alzheimer's," Sophia said. "She was diagnosed 6 years ago when she was 52. She's in a memory care facility now. Most days she doesn't recognize me, but sometimes she has moments of clarity. Those moments are precious." Eleanor's expression softened in a way Sophia hadn't seen before. "My husband had Alzheimer's," she said quietly. "Late onset, but devastating nonetheless. I cared for him at home for as long as I could, but eventually..." She trailed off. "It's a cruel disease." "It is," Sophia agreed. "I'm sorry for your loss." "And I'm sorry for yours," Eleanor said. "Because even when they're still alive, you've lost them in a way. The person you knew is gone, replaced by someone who looks the same but isn't." "Yes," Sophia said, surprised by how well Eleanor understood. "Exactly that." They sat in comfortable silence for a moment. Then Eleanor spoke again. "You left your music training to care for her. How did you know? You said you were trained as a pianist, past tense. And you speak of your grandfather in past tense as well. I'm assuming he was your teacher." "Henri Laurent," Sophia said. "He was a conductor, taught me piano from the time I was 5 years old. He had a scholarship arranged for me at Juilliard. I was in my 3rd year when everything fell apart." "Henri Laurent," Eleanor repeated, and Sophia saw recognition flash across her face. "I heard him conduct at Carnegie Hall. Must be 25 years ago now. He was extraordinary." "He was," Sophia said, feeling the familiar ache of loss. "He always said that music wasn't about technical perfection. It was about emotional truth. That the greatest performances came from understanding what the composer was trying to say and having the courage to say it yourself." "Wise man," Eleanor said. "And you gave up Juilliard to care for your mother." "I gave up a dream for something more important," Sophia said. "Not everyone gets to choose between their dreams and their family, Mrs. Hartwell. When you love someone, you do what needs to be done." Eleanor studied her for a long moment. "You're nothing like the others, Sophia. Nothing like Vanessa." "I should hope not," Sophia said. "I actually have a soul." Eleanor laughed, a genuine sound of surprise and delight. "Oh, I do like you. No wonder Marcus brought you. You're real." "I'm also his housekeeper," Sophia reminded her. "Let's not pretend this is some great love story. He needed a date. I needed the money. It's a business arrangement." "Is it?" Eleanor asked, her eyes sharp again. "Then why does he look at you like you're the only person in the room?" Sophia blinked. "He doesn't. My dear, I've been watching my son all evening. Every time someone approaches you, he tenses. Every time you speak, he listens with complete attention. Every time Vanessa gets within 10 feet of you, he positions himself between you like a guard dog. That's not a business arrangement. That's a man who's realized something important. Mrs. Hartwell, call me Eleanor, please. And before you protest, just consider the possibility that my son might be smarter than he appears. Perhaps he saw something in you that he needed. Something real and honest in a world full of artificial people." Before Sophia could respond, Marcus appeared on the pathway, looking slightly worried. "There you two are. Mother people are asking for you. Something about the dinner seating?" "Of course," Eleanor stood gracefully. "Sophia, we'll continue this conversation later. I find myself very interested in getting to know you better." She walked back toward the party, leaving Marcus and Sophia alone in the gazebo. "What did she say to you?" Marcus asked. "That she likes me," Sophia said. I think, with your mother, it's hard to tell if she's complimenting you or planning your destruction. If she likes you, you're safe, Marcus said. Trust me, when my mother doesn't like someone, she makes it very clear. They walked back toward the party together. As they approached, Sophia noticed a man she hadn't seen before watching them with interest. He was distinguished looking, probably in his late 30s, with the kind of confident bearing that spoke of intelligence and success. Marcus, the man said, approaching them with a warm smile. Good to see you. And who is this? David Morrison, this is Sophia Laurent, Marcus said, and Sophia heard something in his tone. Wariness, maybe. David's a cardiac surgeon, family friend. Sophia Laurent, David repeated, shaking her hand. Any relation to Henri Laurent? He was my grandfather, Sophia said, surprised. I heard him conduct at Carnegie Hall 20 years ago, David said, his face lighting up. It was extraordinary. I was a medical student at the time, barely scraping by, but I saved up for months to get a ticket. Changed my entire perspective on music. He would have loved hearing that, Sophia said, warming to this stranger immediately. My grandfather believed music was medicine for the soul. He was right, David said. I actually use his techniques in my surgical practice. He had this theory about how certain compositions could affect heart rate and blood pressure. I play Baroque music in my OR. It helps me focus and keeps the surgical team calm. Yes, Sophia said, genuinely excited. He wrote a whole paper about it. The mathematical precision of Bach combined with the emotional resonance creates this perfect balance for concentration. I used to practice to Bach for exactly that reason. You play? David asked. I studied at Juilliard, my grandfather's influence. That's incredible, David said, and Sophia could tell his interest was genuine. Listen, I don't mean to be forward, but I know people at Lincoln Center. If you're interested in getting back into music, I'd be happy to make some introductions. They're always looking for talented performers for their educational programs and benefit concerts. Before Sophia could respond, Marcus stepped closer to her, his hand finding her waist. That's very generous of you, David, he said, his tone cooler than before. But Sophia's with me. David looked between them, a knowing smile crossing his face. Of course, I didn't mean to overstep. Sophia, here's my card anyway. If you ever want to talk about music or medicine or your grandfather's work, I'd enjoy the conversation. He handed her a business card and walked away, leaving them alone again. Sophia looked at Marcus. What was that? What was what? You practically growled at him. She's with me. Very territorial for a fake boyfriend. He was hitting on you, Marcus said. He was being nice. There's a difference. Trust me, I know David. He was interested. And I'm supposed to be your boyfriend, so I acted like it. Jealous of your fake girlfriend, Mr. Hartwell? Sophia teased. Marcus opened his mouth to deny it, then closed it again. He was boring you with talk about music. I wasn't bored at all. He's interesting. He knew my grandfather. He operates to classical music. He offered to help with my career. Which you don't have anymore, Marcus said, and immediately looked like he regretted it. Sophia's smile faded. No, I don't. Thank you for the reminder. Sophia, I didn't mean... It's fine, she said. You're right, I'm a housekeeper, not a pianist. I should probably remember that. She walked away from him, needing space. The champagne, the party, the pretending. It was all starting to feel like too much. She found a quiet corner near the string quartet and stood there watching them play. They were good. Not exceptional, but technically proficient. She could see where they were making small mistakes, where the timing was slightly off, where the emotion wasn't quite connecting with the notes. She missed it. God, she missed playing so much it physically hurt. Excuse me, everyone, Eleanor's voice rang out across the garden. If I could have your attention, please. The conversations died down. The string quartet stopped playing. Everyone turned toward Eleanor, who stood on the small platform where the musicians had been set up. Thank you all for coming to celebrate with me this evening, Eleanor said, her voice carrying across the lawn. As many of you know, music was very important to my late husband. He loved the piano above all instruments. So tonight I've arranged for a special performance of some of his favorite pieces. She gestured to a man in a dark suit standing near the platform. Unfortunately, I've just been informed that our pianist has taken ill and won't be able to perform. Disappointed murmurs rippled through the crowd. However, Eleanor continued, and Sophia saw something shift in her expression, a hint of mischief. I know that Vanessa plays. Vanessa, dear, would you be willing to perform for us? Vanessa lit up. Of course, Eleanor. I'd be honored. She made her way to the platform where an elegant grand piano sat. Sophia hadn't even noticed it before, positioned as it was among the garden decorations. But now, with everyone focused on it, the piano seemed to command the entire space. Vanessa settled onto the bench, adjusted her dress, and placed her hands on the keys. She began to play Mozart's Piano Sonata No. 16 in C major. It was a safe choice, elegant and familiar, perfect for a garden party. And she was adequate, nothing more. Her technique was acceptable, her timing was correct, but there was no soul in it, no understanding of what Mozart was trying to express. She played like someone who had learned the notes but never understood the language. When she finished, the crowd applauded politely. Vanessa stood and curtsied, clearly pleased with herself. Eleanor's smile was fixed. That was lovely, Vanessa, thank you. But Sophia could see the disappointment in Eleanor's eyes. This wasn't what she'd wanted. This wasn't the music her husband had loved. Does anyone else play? Someone asked. Eleanor, you were hoping for the Rachmaninoff, weren't you? Yes, Eleanor said quietly. My husband's favorite. But that's quite beyond. Sophia's fingers were twitching. She'd been curling and uncurling them unconsciously, imagining the keys, feeling the music that should have been played. Rachmaninoff's Piano, Concerto No. 2. She knew it by heart. Her grandfather had made her memorize it when she was 16, said it was the most romantic piece ever written, and that she needed to understand romance to truly play it well. She'd performed it at her final Juilliard recital. It had been perfect then. She hadn't touched a piano in 5 years, but muscle memory was a strange thing. The music was still inside her, waiting. Marcus was beside her suddenly. Sophia, I know it, she said quietly. Know what? The Rachmaninoff. I know it. Marcus stared at her. You can't be serious. I memorized it when I was 16. I performed it at Juilliard. I know every note. Sophia, you haven't played in 5 years. I know. She looked at him. But your mother is disappointed, and I can fix that. Before Marcus could stop her, before she could talk herself out of it, Sophia raised her hand. Mrs. Hartwell, she called out. I'll play. Every head turned toward her. The crowd parted as she walked toward the piano. She could feel their eyes on her, could sense their skepticism. The housekeeper was going to play Rachmaninoff? This should be entertaining. Vanessa was still standing near the piano, and as Sophia approached, her expression shifted from confusion to something ugly. You play piano? Vanessa asked, loud enough for people nearby to hear. I trained at Juilliard, Sophia said simply. Eleanor's face had transformed. There was hope there now, barely contained excitement. Sophia, you know the Rachmaninoff? The second concerto, yes. If you'd like me to play it, I'd be honored. But without sheet music. My grandfather made me memorize the pieces that mattered most, Sophia said. He always said the greatest performances came from the heart, not from a page. Eleanor's eyes filled with tears. Please, yes, please play. Sophia sat at the piano. The bench was still warm from Vanessa's performance. She adjusted her position, letting her hands rest on the keys for a moment. 5 years. It had been 5 years since she'd played anything more complex than the simplified version she taught online students. But when her fingers touched the keys, it all came back. She closed her eyes and began. The opening chords of Rachmaninoff's Piano Concerto No. 2 were powerful, dramatic, full of longing and passion. Sophia poured everything into them, every sacrifice she'd made, every moment with her mother that she'd treasured, every loss she'd endured, every dream she'd given up. The music swelled and fell, tender and fierce by turns. This was the piece her grandfather had said captured the essence of romance. The joy, the pain, the beauty, the tragedy, all woven together into something transcendent. The garden was absolutely silent except for the piano. No one spoke. No one moved. Sophia played like she was 23 again, performing for her grandfather one last time. She played for her mother, who would never hear her play again. She played for herself, for the person she used to be and the person she'd become. The second movement was achingly beautiful, almost unbearably tender. She could feel tears on her cheeks but didn't stop playing. The music demanded everything, and she gave it willingly. The final movement built to its triumphant conclusion, powerful and sure. When she played the last chord, Sophia held it, letting it ring out into the night air until it faded to nothing. Then silence. Complete, absolute silence. Sophia opened her eyes and saw the crowd staring at her. For a moment, no one moved. Then Eleanor began to clap. Slow at first, then faster, tears streaming down her face. The crowd erupted. Thunderous applause filled the garden, and people were standing, some of them crying, all of them amazed. Sophia stood from the piano on shaking legs. She looked for Marcus and found him staring at her with an expression she couldn't read. Wonder, maybe, or shock. Vanessa was nowhere to be seen. Someone near Sophia whispered that she'd left, practically running from the garden during the performance. Eleanor made her way to the piano and pulled Sophia into a tight embrace. "That was extraordinary," she whispered. "My husband would have loved that. You have his gift, Sophia, your grandfather's gift." "Thank you," Sophia managed to say. People crowded around her now, asking questions. Where had she studied? Who was her teacher? Why hadn't they heard of her? Would she perform again? Sophia answered as best she could, but she felt overwhelmed, exposed. She'd just revealed herself in a way she hadn't intended. These people now knew what she'd given up, what she'd lost. Marcus finally made his way through the crowd to her side. He didn't say anything, just took her hand and squeezed it gently. "That was incredible," he said quietly, just for her to hear. "It was necessary," Sophia said. "Your mother deserved to hear the music done properly." "You're amazing," Marcus said. "I had no idea." "You never asked," Sophia reminded him. But there was no bitterness in her voice anymore. Just exhaustion. David Morrison appeared beside them. "Sophia, that was extraordinary. I meant what I said about Lincoln Center. They need to hear you play." Before Marcus could intervene again, Eleanor did it for him. "Dr. Morrison, I think Sophia's had enough excitement for one evening. Perhaps we can discuss her future musical career tomorrow after she's had some rest." "Of course," David said, backing away. "Sophia, truly, that was a gift." The party continued, but the energy had shifted. People kept approaching Sophia, complimenting her, asking questions. She answered graciously, but Marcus could see she was exhausted. Finally, Eleanor rescued her again. Everyone, please, let's give Sophia some breathing room. Dinner will be served shortly. Marcus, perhaps you and Sophia would like to freshen up before we sit down? It was a dismissal disguised as a courtesy, and Sophia took it gratefully. Marcus guided her away from the crowd, through the house to a quiet sitting room. He closed the door behind them, and suddenly they were alone for the first time since the performance. "Why didn't you tell me?" Marcus asked. "You never asked," Sophia said again. "You saw a housekeeper. That's all you wanted to see. But Juilliard, your grandfather, the fact that you're a concert-level pianist—" "I was a concert-level pianist," Sophia corrected. "Past tense. Now I'm a woman who cleans houses to pay for her mother's care. The fact that I used to be something else doesn't change what I am now." "Sophia, I need some air," she said. "Just a few minutes alone, please." Marcus nodded and let her go. Sophia found her way to a balcony overlooking the garden. She could see the party continuing below, people laughing and talking, completely unaware of how much that performance had cost her. She'd been fine with her choice. She'd been fine with giving up music for her mother. But playing again, even just once, had reopened a wound she thought had healed. She loved her mother. She'd do it all again in a heartbeat. But God, she missed this. She missed being the person who made music instead of the person who cleaned up after others. "There you are," Eleanor's voice came from behind her. "May I join you?" Sophia nodded, and Eleanor came to stand beside her at the railing. "Thank you for tonight," Eleanor said. "That performance was exactly what I hoped for, what my husband would have wanted. I'm glad I could give you that." "You gave up everything for your mother," Eleanor said. "That takes extraordinary character." "Or just ordinary love," Sophia replied. "There's nothing ordinary about you, Sophia Laurent." Eleanor was quiet for a moment. "I need to tell you something about my son." "Mrs. Hartwell." "Eleanor," she corrected. "And please, just listen. Marcus has brought many women to this house over the years. Some were beautiful, some were accomplished, some were from good families. But none of them were real. They all wanted something from him. His money, his status, his connections. They saw him as a means to an end." "I understand," Sophia said. "I don't think you do," Eleanor said. "You're the first person he's brought here who didn't want anything from him. You told me the truth about who you are without shame. You stood up to Vanessa. You played that piano not to impress anyone, but because I was disappointed and you wanted to help. You're real, Sophia, and my son needs real." "He hired me," Sophia said gently. "This isn't a fairy tale. I'm being paid to be here." "Is that all this is to you? A business transaction?" Sophia thought about it. About how Marcus had defended her to Vanessa. About the way he'd held her hand after the performance. About the look in his eyes when he'd said she was amazing. "I don't know," she admitted. "It started as a transaction. But now I'm not sure what it is." "Then figure it out," Eleanor said. "Because my son is looking at you like you hung the moon. And you're looking at him like you're afraid to hope for something good. Life is too short for fear, Sophia. Trust me." "I know." Eleanor squeezed her arm gently and walked away, leaving Sophia alone with her thoughts and the sound of the party below. Dinner was an elegant affair, served at long tables arranged on the lawn under the string lights. Sophia found herself seated at the family table directly across from Eleanor and next to Marcus. It was a position of honor, and she could feel people staring, whispering, wondering who this housekeeper was who'd somehow earned a place at the inner circle. The food was exquisite, prepared by what was clearly a professional chef. Sophia ate carefully, aware that every move she made was being observed and evaluated. Marcus stayed close, attentive in a way that felt less like acting and more like genuine care. "You're not eating much," he said quietly, leaning toward her. "I'm not very hungry," Sophia admitted. "Too much adrenaline from the performance." "That was incredible, by the way. I don't think I said that clearly enough before. You were extraordinary." "Thank you. Why didn't you tell me you could play like that?" Sophia set down her fork. "When would I have told you, Marcus? In the 6 months I cleaned your apartment while you barely acknowledged I existed. Or maybe during our business negotiation when you were offering me money to pretend to be your girlfriend?" Marcus winced. "Fair point." "You saw what you expected to see," Sophia said. "A housekeeper. Someone beneath your notice." "I didn't hide who I was, you just never looked." Before Marcus could respond, Eleanor stood at the head of the table, tapping her glass with a spoon. The conversations died down. "I want to thank you all for being here tonight," Eleanor said, her voice carrying across the lawn. 70 years is a long time to be on this earth, and I'm grateful to have spent it surrounded by people I love. Her eyes found Sophia. "And to have met new people who remind me what truly matters. Family, sacrifice, character." She raised her glass. "To family, both blood and chosen." Everyone raised their glasses and drank. Sophia felt Marcus's hand find hers under the table and squeeze gently. After dinner, guests began to disperse to different areas of the garden. Some gathered around the bar for after-dinner drinks. Others clustered in conversation groups. A few couples danced to the music the string quartet had resumed playing. Sophia was standing near the fountain, catching her breath and trying to process the overwhelming evening when Vanessa appeared beside her. "That was quite a performance," Vanessa said, her voice dripping with false sweetness. "Thank you," Sophia said cautiously. "I had no idea Marcus's housekeeper was so talented. It must be frustrating having all that training and skill and ending up cleaning toilets for a living." Sophia turned to face her fully. "I don't find honest work frustrating, Vanessa. And I don't clean toilets. I maintain apartments for people who are too busy or too privileged to do it themselves." "Of course," Vanessa said. "I'm sure it's very fulfilling. Tell me, though, I'm curious. How much is Marcus paying you to be here tonight? It must be quite a lot to convince you to play along with this whole charade." Sophia's stomach dropped. "I don't know what you mean." "Oh, please. You're his housekeeper. You show up out of nowhere on his arm wearing a dress that's nice but clearly off the rack, and suddenly you're performing for the guests like a trained monkey. This is obviously some kind of arrangement. Vanessa, I'm not judging," Vanessa continued, her smile sharp. "Everyone needs money, and I'm sure Marcus is paying you very well. I just think people should know the truth about what's really going on here." Before Sophia could respond, Vanessa turned and walked toward a group of guests that included Eleanor. Sophia's heart began to race. She looked around for Marcus but couldn't see him anywhere. "Eleanor," Vanessa called out sweetly, "I've just been having the most interesting conversation with Sophia. I think there's something everyone should know about Marcus's new girlfriend." Eleanor's expression hardened. "Vanessa, whatever you're about to say, I just think it's important to be honest," Vanessa said, her voice loud enough to carry. More people were turning to listen now, drawn by the drama in her tone. "Sophia is a lovely person, truly, but she's not actually Marcus's girlfriend. She's his housekeeper, and from what I understand, she's being paid quite handsomely to be here tonight." The murmurs started immediately. Shocked whispers rippled through the crowd. Sophia felt every eye turn toward her, felt the judgment and the curiosity and the schadenfreude of people who loved seeing others embarrassed. She could run. She could leave right now, disappear into the house and call a car and never look back. That's what Vanessa expected. That's what everyone expected. But Sophia had spent too many years being invisible, being dismissed, being treated like she didn't matter. She'd played Rachmaninoff in front of these people. She'd bared her soul through music. She wasn't going to run now. She walked forward until she stood in the center of the gathering crowd. Her head was high. Her voice was steady. "It's true," Sophia said clearly. "I am Marcus's housekeeper. I clean his apartment 3 days a week. And yes, he offered me money to come here tonight as his date." More gasps, more whispers. But Sophia kept going. "He offered me $10,000. I accepted because my mother is in a memory care facility that costs $8,000 a month, and I was behind on payments. I work 3 jobs to afford her care. I clean houses, I hostess at a restaurant on weekends, I teach music online, and I'm not ashamed of any of it." She looked around at the crowd, meeting eyes, daring anyone to look away. "Yes, I came here for money, but I also came here and told every one of you the truth when you asked. I didn't pretend to be something I'm not. I didn't lie about cleaning houses or working service jobs. I was honest about who I am and what I do, because I'm not ashamed of earning an honest living to take care of someone I love." Her voice grew stronger. "I gave up a scholarship to Juilliard to care for my mother when she was diagnosed with early-onset Alzheimer's. I gave up a career as a concert pianist because family mattered more than fame. And if you think that makes me less than you, if you think working service jobs is beneath your notice, then you have no idea what real character looks like." The crowd was silent now. Sophia turned to look at Vanessa. "You wanted to humiliate me. You wanted me to run away embarrassed, but I'm not embarrassed. I'm proud of what I do and who I am. Can you say the same?" Vanessa's face had gone red. She opened her mouth, but no words came out. Eleanor stepped forward and her voice cut through the silence like a blade. "Sophia is absolutely right. There is no shame in honest work or in sacrificing for family. In fact, those are the things that build real character. Vanessa, on the other hand, has just demonstrated what happens when someone has neither." Eleanor looked around at her guests. "Sophia gave up her dreams to care for her mother who has Alzheimer's. My late husband had the same disease. I know exactly what kind of sacrifice that requires. It requires love, strength, and selflessness. Qualities that are apparently foreign to some people." The crowd's mood had shifted. People weren't looking at Sophia with judgment anymore. They were looking at her with respect, even admiration. And they were looking at Vanessa with disappointment and disgust. Marcus appeared at Sophia's side suddenly, slightly out of breath like he'd been running. "Sophia, I'm sorry, I was on a call with—" He looked around at the crowd, at Vanessa's face, at Eleanor's protective stance. "What happened?" "The truth came out," Sophia said quietly. "All of it." Marcus turned to face the crowd. "Yes, I hired Sophia to come here tonight because I was too proud to show up alone, too embarrassed to admit to my mother that I couldn't find a real date. But spending this evening with Sophia has shown me something important." He looked at Sophia and there was something raw and honest in his expression. "She's the most genuine person I've met in years. She doesn't care about my money or my status. She speaks her mind. She stands up for herself. She gave up everything for family while I've spent my entire life taking my family for granted. And yes, I offered her money to be here. But what she gave me in return, honesty, dignity, perspective, that's worth far more than $10,000. He turned to Vanessa. "You wanted to expose her. All you did was show everyone here the difference between someone with real character and someone who only pretends to have it. I think we're done here, Vanessa. Please leave." Vanessa looked around at the crowd, at Eleanor's cold expression, at the guests who were no longer on her side. Without a word, she turned and walked away, her heels clicking angrily on the stone pathway. The crowd began to disperse, conversation starting up again. Several people approached Sophia to tell her how moved they'd been by her piano performance, how much they respected her honesty, how brave she was. Eleanor hugged her. "You handled that beautifully," she said, "with more grace than Vanessa will ever have." But Sophia felt hollow. Yes, she'd stood up for herself. Yes, she'd won the crowd over, but standing there, surrounded by people who now knew she'd been paid to be there, she felt cheap. Used. "I need some air," she said to no one in particular, and walked away from the party. She found herself back at the fountain, away from the crowds. The sound of water was soothing, drowning out the party noise. She sat on the edge of the fountain and tried to calm the storm of emotions swirling inside her. Marcus found her there a few minutes later. "Hey," he said softly, "you okay?" "I'm fine." "You're not fine. Talk to me." Sophia looked up at him. "Why didn't you tell your mother the truth from the beginning?" Marcus hesitated. "What do you mean?" "About hiring me. About this being a business arrangement. You told everyone else tonight, but you never told her beforehand. Why? It would have been awkward. For who? For me? I told you from the beginning I wasn't ashamed. Or was it awkward for you?" Marcus ran a hand through his hair. "I didn't want my mother to think I couldn't get a date without paying for one." "So you were embarrassed?" Sophia said, and her voice was very quiet now. "Of the situation, not of you." "What's the difference, Marcus? I'm part of the situation. You were embarrassed to tell your own mother the truth about why I was here. You defended me publicly just now, and that was great. Really. But you couldn't be honest with her privately. That tells me everything I need to know." "Sophia, that's not fair. Isn't it?" She stood up. "You hired me to play a role, and when it mattered, when you could have been honest with your mother before all this happened, you chose to keep lying, not because of me. Because of you. I was trying to protect you. I don't need protection, I need respect, and respect means honesty." Sophia reached into her clutch and pulled out the check he'd given her that first day. She'd been carrying it with her all evening, planning to deposit it tomorrow. Now she held it out to him. "Here." "What are you doing?" "Returning your money. I don't want it." "Sophia, don't be ridiculous. You need this for your mother." "I'll figure something out. I always do. But I won't take money for this, not anymore." "You earned it. You fulfilled your end of the arrangement." "This wasn't an arrangement, Marcus. Or if it was, it stopped being one somewhere along the way. At least for me." She pressed the check into his hand. "I'm not for sale, and I'm certainly not going to be someone's dirty secret." "You were never a secret." "Then why didn't you tell your mother before tonight? Why did you let Vanessa be the one to reveal the truth?" Marcus didn't have an answer for that. "That's what I thought," Sophia said. She started walking toward the house. "I'm going to call a car. Tell your mother thank you for the evening. She was kind to me." "Sophia, wait. Goodbye, Marcus." She walked away, and this time he didn't follow. Inside, Sophia found a quiet corner and called for a ride. While she waited, she looked out at the party still going on in the garden. Marcus was standing alone near the fountain, holding the check she'd returned, looking lost. For a moment, she almost went back, almost told him she was overreacting, that she understood why he hadn't told Eleanor that it was fine. But it wasn't fine. She'd spent 5 years being invisible, being dismissed, being treated like she didn't matter. She'd finally found her voice again tonight, standing up to Vanessa and owning who she was. She wasn't going to lose that voice again for anyone, not even for Marcus Hartwell. Her phone buzzed. The car was here. Sophia walked out the front door without looking back. The next morning, Marcus woke up with a splitting headache and a hollow feeling in his chest. The party had continued after Sophia left, but the joy had gone out of it for him. He'd made polite conversation, thanked guests for coming, and avoided his mother's knowing looks. Now, sitting in his childhood bedroom in the estate, he stared at the check Sophia had returned. $10,000. The exact amount he'd offered her to pretend to be his girlfriend for one evening. Except it hadn't been pretending. Not really. Not for him. Somewhere between her sharp comments in his apartment and her breathtaking piano performance, somewhere between watching her stand up to Vanessa and seeing her handle Eleanor with perfect grace, Marcus had stopped seeing her as his housekeeper and started seeing her as Sophia. Smart, talented, strong, real. And he'd lost her because he'd been too embarrassed to be honest with his own mother. There was a knock on his door. "Come in," Marcus called. Eleanor entered, still in her robe, carrying 2 cups of coffee. She handed one to Marcus and sat in the chair by his window. "Your party," Marcus began. "Was a success," Eleanor finished. "Stop worrying about the party. We need to talk about Sophia." "Mother? That girl has more class in her little finger than Vanessa Sterling has in her entire body," Eleanor said flatly. "She gave up her dreams for family. She worked 3 jobs to afford her mother's care. She stood in front of a crowd of judgmental socialites and owned every choice she'd ever made with dignity and grace. And you let her walk away. She returned the money. She said she wasn't for sale. She's not for sale. She never was. That's what makes her special." Eleanor sipped her coffee. "Do you know why I liked her immediately? Because she told you the truth about being my housekeeper? Because she didn't want anything from you except respect. Every woman you've brought here wanted something. Money, status, connections. Vanessa wanted all 3. But Sophia, she just wanted to be treated like a human being with value. And somehow you managed to make her feel like a transaction." Marcus set down his coffee cup. "I defended her last night. After Vanessa forced your hand. But before that, you were happy to keep the truth from me. Why?" "I don't know." "Yes, you do. Say it." Marcus was quiet for a long moment. "I was ashamed, not of her, of myself, of the fact that I had to hire someone to come to my own mother's birthday party, that I'm 34 years old and so disconnected from real human relationships that I couldn't find a single person who actually wanted to be here with me." Eleanor's expression softened. "Oh, Marcus." Sophia was right. I was embarrassed, and instead of being honest about it, I hid behind the arrangement. I told myself it was just business, just a transaction. But it wasn't. Not after I saw her handle you with grace. Not after I heard her play. Not after I watched her stand up to Vanessa and own every part of who she is. "You fell in love with her," Eleanor said. "I think I did," Marcus admitted. Somewhere between her first sarcastic comment and her last honest one. But I was too afraid to admit it, even to myself. "Love is terrifying," Eleanor said. "It requires vulnerability, honesty, the willingness to be seen completely, flaws and all. Your father and I had 50 years together because we never lied to each other. Even when the truth was hard, even when he was sick and didn't remember my name, I still told him I loved him every day. Because that's what real love requires." "I don't know how to fix this," Marcus said. "Then you're not the son I raised," Eleanor said, standing up. "You're a Hartwell. We don't give up when something is worth fighting for. And Sophia Laurent is worth fighting for. She won't take my money. Good. She shouldn't. Money is the problem, Marcus. You tried to buy her presence. You need to earn her trust. There's a difference." Eleanor walked to the door, then paused. "By the way, Henri Laurent was one of the greatest conductors of his generation. And Sophia gave up being mentored by him, gave up Juilliard, gave up a career that could have made her famous, all to care for her mother, Do you know what kind of person does that? Someone with real character. Someone worth loving, Eleanor corrected. Don't let pride cost you the best thing that's ever happened to you. She left, closing the door softly behind her. Marcus sat alone in his room holding the return check and thinking about everything Eleanor had said. She was right. Of course she was right. His mother was always right about matters of the heart. He'd spent his entire adult life protecting himself, building walls, keeping people at arm's length, using money and status as shields against real connection. And the one person who'd broken through all of that, who'd made him feel something real, he'd treated like an employee instead of a person. He needed to fix this, but money wouldn't work. Grand gestures wouldn't work. Sophia didn't want what he usually used to solve problems. She wanted honesty, respect, genuine support with no strings attached. Marcus pulled out his phone and started making calls. He had a lot of work to do, and only a narrow window to do it in before Sophia decided he wasn't worth the trouble. He couldn't blame her if she already had. But he had to try. Because Eleanor was right. Sophia Laurent was worth fighting for, and this time Marcus Hartwell was going to fight without hiding behind money or pride or fear. This time, he was going to be real. 3 days later, Sophia was walking through the halls of Meadowbrook Memory Care with a familiar heaviness in her chest. She'd worked double shifts at the restaurant all weekend, picked up extra online tutoring sessions, and was trying to figure out how to make up the shortfall in her mother's payments without the $10,000 she'd walked away from. She didn't regret returning the money. Her pride was worth more than financial security. But the practical reality of her situation was hitting hard. Miss Laurent, the facility administrator, Mrs. Chen, stopped her in the hallway. Do you have a moment? Sophia's stomach dropped. This was it, the conversation about transferring her mother to the state facility. She'd been dreading this moment. Of course, Sophia said, following Mrs. Chen to her office. But when she walked in, she froze. Marcus was sitting in one of the chairs, and next to him, looking elegant even in a simple day dress, was Eleanor. What are you doing here? Sophia asked. Please sit, Mrs. Chen said gently. We have some things to discuss. Sophia sat slowly, her eyes moving between Marcus and Eleanor. If this is about payment, your mother's account has been paid in full, Mrs. Chen said, for the next 2 years. Sophia blinked. What? The Hartwell Foundation has established a new program, Mrs. Chen continued, pulling out some official-looking documents. It's called the Henri Laurent Memorial Arts Fellowship. It provides full care funding for family members of professional musicians who left their careers to become caregivers. She handed Sophia the paperwork. Your mother is the first recipient. The foundation has covered all past due amounts and guaranteed funding for the next 24 months, with the possibility of renewal. Sophia stared at the documents, not quite believing what she was reading. Then she looked at Marcus. This wasn't my idea alone, Marcus said quickly. My mother and I created it together. It's not charity, Sophia. It's recognition of what your grandfather contributed to music and what you sacrificed to care for your family. We researched Henri Laurent's legacy, Eleanor added. He mentored dozens of young musicians over his career. Many of them are now successful performers. This foundation honors that legacy while supporting people like you who make impossible choices out of love. Sophia felt tears burning in her eyes. I can't accept this. Yes, you can, Eleanor said firmly, because this isn't about you and Marcus. This is about honoring your grandfather and making sure your mother gets the care she deserves. Those are two separate things from whatever personal issues you and my son need to work out. But there are no strings attached, Marcus said. The foundation is legitimate. It's already incorporated. We have a board of directors that includes 3 of your grandfather's former students. They approved your mother's sponsorship unanimously. This has nothing to do with our arrangement or the money I offered you." "Then why are you here?" Sophia asked. Marcus looked at Eleanor, who nodded encouragingly. He took a deep breath. "Because I need to apologize, properly this time. And I wanted to do it here where you could see that I'm serious about supporting what matters to you, with no expectations in return." "Marcus, please just let me say this." He leaned forward. "You were right about everything. I was ashamed. Not of you, never of you. I was ashamed of myself. Ashamed that I'm 34 years old and so disconnected from real human connection that I had to hire someone to come to my mother's birthday party." Eleanor squeezed his shoulder encouragingly. "I told myself it was just business," Marcus continued, "just a transaction. But it stopped being that the moment you called me out in my own apartment, when you insisted on being honest about who you are. When you showed me that real dignity comes from character, not status." Sophia stayed quiet, listening. "I should have told my mother the truth from the beginning," Marcus said. "Not because I was ashamed of you, but because I should have been honest about my own failures. About the fact that I'd let my life become so empty that I didn't have a single genuine relationship left." "You have your mother," Sophia said softly. "I do. And she's reminded me repeatedly over the past 3 days what an idiot I am." Marcus almost smiled. "But she also reminded me that it's never too late to change, to be honest, to stop hiding behind money and pride." He reached into his jacket and pulled out an envelope. "This is for you. It's not money, it's something else." Sophia took the envelope carefully and opened it. Inside was a letter from Lincoln Center, offering her a position teaching piano in their community outreach program. 2 days a week, good pay, working with underprivileged children. "David Morrison made the introduction," Marcus said. "But the offer is based entirely on your credentials and your performance at the party." Several board members were there that night. They want you. Sophia stared at the letter, her vision blurring with tears. "There's more," Eleanor said, pulling out another envelope. "This is information about a practice space at the Hartwell Foundation building. It's yours to use whenever you want. No cost, no strings. Just a piano and a quiet room where you can play again if you want to." "Why?" Sophia asked, her voice breaking. "Why are you doing all this?" "Because you deserve it," Marcus said simply. "Because you gave up your dreams for family and you shouldn't have to give them up forever. Because you're extraordinary, Sophia, and the world deserves to hear you play." He paused. "And because I fell in love with you somewhere between your first sarcastic comment and your last honest one. And I needed you to know that I see you. Really see you. Not as my housekeeper, not as someone I hired. Just as you." The tears spilled over. Sophia wiped them away quickly. "You can't just say things like that." "Why not? It's true." "Because it's not fair," Sophia said. "You hurt me, Marcus. You made me feel like I was something to be ashamed of." "I know. And I'm sorry. More sorry than I can express." Marcus's voice was raw. "But I'm here to prove that I've changed. That I understand what matters now. This isn't a grand gesture to win you back. This is me showing you that I support what you care about, whether you forgive me or not." Sophia looked at Eleanor. "You're part of this?" "Every bit of it," Eleanor confirmed. "I loved your grandfather's music, and I see in you the same dedication to family that I had with my husband. You remind me that the best things in life aren't things at all. They're the people we love and the sacrifices we make for them." Mrs. Chen stood. "I'll give you all some privacy. Miss Laurent, your mother is in the common room. She's having a good day today. You might want to visit with her." She left, closing the door gently behind her. Sophia stood, needing to move, to process. I need to think about all this. Of course, Marcus said, standing as well. Take all the time you need. The foundation money is guaranteed regardless of what you decide about us. And the Lincoln Center position is real. They want an answer by next week. I don't know what to say. You don't have to say anything right now, Eleanor said. Just know that you have options. Real options that you earn through your own talent and character. Whatever you decide to do with them is entirely up to you. Sophia nodded, still holding the letters. I should go see my mother. We'll wait here, Marcus said, in case you want to talk after. Sophia walked to the common room in a daze. Her mother was sitting by the window looking at a book of photographs. For a moment, Sophia just watched her, remembering the vibrant woman she used to be. The woman who used to dance around the kitchen while cooking, who used to braid Sophia's hair and tell her stories about her father. Mom, Sophia said softly, sitting beside her. Her mother looked up, and for a moment there was no recognition. Then something shifted in her eyes. Sophia, she said, and it was clear. Her voice was her own. My beautiful girl, you came. I always come, Mom. I know you do. Even when I don't remember, I know. Her mother took her hand. You gave up so much for me. I didn't give up anything that mattered more than you. Your music mattered. Your grandfather's dreams for you mattered. You matter more, Sophia said firmly. Her mother smiled, that old, familiar smile. You're like him, you know. Henry, stubborn, passionate, so full of love you don't know what to do with it all. I miss him. So do I. But he's still here. Her mother touched Sophia's heart. In here, in your music, in the way you love, he'd be so proud of you. I haven't played in years, Mom, not really. But you did recently, I can tell. You have that light again, that spark he always said you had. Her mother's eyes were clear, present. Don't let it go out, Sophia. Life is too short to give up all your dreams. Keep some for yourself, too. Sophia hugged her mother tightly, breathing in her familiar scent. These moments were precious. Tomorrow, maybe even in an hour, her mother might forget this conversation ever happened. But right now, she was here. She was present. And she was telling Sophia the truth she needed to hear. When Sophia returned to Mrs. Chen's office, Marcus and Eleanor were still there talking quietly. How is she? Eleanor asked. Good. Clear. She remembered me. Sophia sat down. She told me not to give up all my dreams. Smart woman, Eleanor said. Sophia looked at Marcus. I'm still angry with you. I understand. But I also understand why you did what you did. Fear makes us do stupid things. I'm not saying I forgive you yet, but I'm willing to consider the possibility. That's more than I deserve, Marcus said. Yes, it is. Sophia allowed herself a small smile. The foundation, the Lincoln Center position, the practice space, thank you. All of it. It means more than you know. You're welcome. But if we're going to try this, and I'm not saying we are, we need to start over honestly this time. No transactions, no arrangements. Just two people getting to know each other for real. I'd like that, Marcus said. More than anything, Eleanor stood. On that note, I'm going to give you two some privacy. Sophia, it was lovely to see you again. I hope you'll come visit sometime. Not as Marcus as anything, just as yourself. I'd like that, Sophia said. Eleanor kissed her cheek. You're good for him. Don't let him off easy. I won't, Sophia promised. After Eleanor left, Marcus and Sophia sat in awkward silence for a moment. So, Marcus said finally, would you like to get coffee sometime? Real coffee, not as my employee or my fake girlfriend, just as two people who might want to see where things go? I work 3 jobs, Marcus. I don't have a lot of free time. 2 jobs, Marcus corrected. You can quit the housekeeping if you take the Lincoln Center position. The pay is better. I haven't accepted it yet. But you will, because you're smart and it's a good opportunity. Sophia considered this. Coffee sounds nice, but I'm paying for my own. Deal. They stood, and for a moment they just looked at each other. Then Marcus held out his hand, formal and slightly ridiculous. Hi, I'm Marcus Hartwell. I'm a workaholic CEO with control issues and a tendency to hide behind money when things get emotional. Sophia laughed despite herself and shook his hand. Sophia Laurent. I'm a former pianist, current housekeeper, and future teacher with trust issues and a tendency to push people away when they get too close. Nice to meet you, Sophia Laurent. Nice to meet you too, Marcus Hartwell. It was a beginning. Small, honest, real. And this time it was exactly what they both needed. 2 months later, Sophia stood in the music room at the Hartwell estate, her fingers resting lightly on the keys of the grand piano. She'd been here several times since that day at the memory care facility. Sometimes with Marcus, sometimes alone, just playing for hours, rediscovering her love for music. She'd accepted the Lincoln Center position. She'd quit 2 of her 3 jobs. She had time to breathe now, time to play, time to visit her mother without the constant pressure of financial crisis. And she had Marcus, not the arrogant CEO who'd hired her as a decoration, the real Marcus, the one who called to ask about her day, who showed up at her recitals with flowers, who visited her mother with her and sat through the hard days when she didn't remember anyone. They'd taken things slowly. Coffee dates turned into dinner dates, turned into long walks where they actually talked about real things. He told her about the pressure of living up to his father's legacy. She told him about the guilt of sometimes resenting the sacrifices she'd made. It wasn't perfect. They still argued. She still called him out when he got too controlling. He still struggled with being vulnerable. But it was real, and real was better than perfect. Tonight was another of Eleanor's dinner parties, much smaller than the birthday celebration, just family and close friends. Sophia had been invited as herself this time, not as anyone's date. After dinner, Eleanor asked her to play. It had become a tradition. Sophia sat at the piano and began to play Debussy's Clair de Lune. Soft, romantic, full of longing. She played with her eyes closed, feeling the music flow through her. When she finished, she opened her eyes to applause. But Marcus was standing now, walking toward the piano. He had a strange expression on his face, nervous, determined. "That was beautiful," he said, "but I was hoping you'd play one more piece." "What piece?" "This one." He sat beside her on the piano bench, and together they played a simple duet. Chopsticks, ridiculous and childish, but he'd been practicing with a teacher for weeks to surprise her. Sophia laughed as they played, their hands occasionally bumping on the keys. When they finished, everyone was smiling. "I'm not very good," Marcus admitted, "but you've been teaching me that it's okay not to be perfect at everything." "You're getting better," Sophia said. "In a few years, you might almost be competent." "High praise from you." He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. Sophia's breath caught. "The first time you played this piano," Marcus said, "I saw you for the first time. Not my housekeeper. Not my fake date. Just you. The most extraordinary woman I've ever met." He opened the box, revealing a simple but beautiful ring. "You gave up your dreams for family. Let me give you a family that supports your dreams. Let me be the person who stands beside you while you play, who sits in the audience when you perform, who reminds you every day how talented and strong and real you are." Sophia's eyes filled with tears. "Sophia Laurent, will you marry me?" Sophia looked at the ring, then at Marcus, then at Eleanor, who was crying happily. "That was almost romantic, Mr. Hartwell," Sophia said, her voice shaking. "Almost?" Marcus asked nervously. "You forgot to actually ask if I love you back." "Do you?" "I do. Very much. Even though you're controlling and you still try to solve problems with money and you play chopsticks like a kindergartner." Marcus laughed. "Is that a yes?" "It's a yes." He slipped the ring onto her finger and she pulled him into a kiss. The small group erupted in applause and happy tears. Eleanor was the first to hug them both. "Welcome to the family, officially this time." "Thank you," Sophia said, "for everything. For seeing me when Marcus couldn't. For the foundation, for being kind to my mother." "You're family now," Eleanor said simply. "That's what family does." 6 months later, Sophia and Marcus were married at the Hartwell estate. It was a small ceremony, just close friends and family. Sophia's mother was there, having one of her good days, crying happy tears and telling everyone about her daughter, the pianist. The ceremony included something unusual. Instead of traditional music, Sophia and Marcus played a piano duet together. A simple piece that Marcus had been practicing for months. He made several mistakes, and Sophia had to help him find the right keys, but it was perfect in its imperfection. "This is us," Marcus said in his vows. "I'm going to make mistakes, I'm going to hit wrong notes, but you'll be there to help me find the right ones. And together, we'll make something beautiful." "You're getting better at romantic speeches," Sophia said through her tears. "I have a good teacher." 1 year later, Sophia stood in the practice room of the Laurent Hartwell Music Foundation building, surrounded by 6 students. They ranged in age from 8 to 17. Each one was a talented musician. Each one was also a primary caregiver for a family member. "Remember," Sophia said, demonstrating a difficult passage on the piano, "technique is important, but emotion is everything. Music isn't about playing the right notes. It's about making people feel something real." A teenage violinist named Maya raised her hand. "Miss Sophia, do you ever regret giving up Juilliard?" It was a question Sophia got often. She considered it carefully, the way she always did. "I regret that I had to choose," she said honestly. "But I don't regret the choice I made. My mother needed me, and I needed to be there for her. That's not a sacrifice, that's love." "But you could have been famous," Maya said. "I could have been. But would I have been happy? Would I have been the person I am now?" Sophia smiled. "Everything I gave up taught me something important. It taught me what really matters, and now I get to teach you, and you'll go on to teach others. That's a different kind of legacy. Maybe a better one." The door opened and Marcus appeared, carrying their 10-month-old daughter, Lily. The baby squealed when she saw Sophia and reached for her. "Sorry to interrupt," Marcus said, "but someone was asking for Mama." Sophia took Lily and kissed her chubby cheek. "Class, this is Lily. She's going to be a pianist too someday, or a violinist or a conductor, or maybe she'll do something completely different. Whatever makes her happy." The students gathered around to see the baby, asking if they could hold her. Sophia let them take turns watching as they carefully cradled her daughter. "You're good with them," Marcus said quietly, standing beside Sophia. "They remind me of myself at that age, talented, scared, trying to balance impossible responsibilities. You're giving them what no one gave you: options, support, a community that understands." "We're giving them that," Sophia corrected. "The foundation is both of ours." Marcus kissed her temple. "My mother's coming by later. She wants to take Lily for the afternoon so we can have a date night." "Your mother is shameless about spoiling her granddaughter." "It's her right as a grandmother. Besides, she says Lily has Henri's eyes." "She does," Sophia said softly, looking at her daughter. "Smart. Musical, seeing things others miss." That evening, after the students had left and Lily was with Eleanor, Sophia and Marcus sat together in the practice room. Sophia at the piano, Marcus beside her on the bench. "Play something," Marcus said. "And what do you want to hear?" "Whatever you're feeling." Sophia thought for a moment, then began to play Rachmaninoff's Piano Concerto No. 2, the same piece she'd played at Eleanor's birthday party. But this time it was different. There was no grief in it, no loss, just joy, pure, simple joy. When she finished, Marcus was looking at her with that expression she'd come to know so well. Love, admiration, wonder. "What?" Sophia asked. "I'm just grateful you love me back," Marcus said. "Every day I'm grateful. Every day. Every single day." Sophia leaned against him. "You know what's funny? A year and a half ago, you offered me $10,000 to pretend to be your girlfriend for one night." "Worst investment I ever made," Marcus said. "I should have offered you everything from the start. Would have saved us both a lot of trouble." "Best terrible idea you ever had," Sophia corrected. "Because it gave me back my music, my dreams, myself." "And me," Marcus added. "And you," Sophia agreed, "even though you still can't play chopsticks properly." "I'm working on it." They sat together in comfortable silence, the piano keys cool under Sophia's fingers, Marcus's arm warm around her shoulders. She thought about everything that had changed since that night when Marcus had asked her to pretend. How she'd gone from invisible to seen, from housekeeper to teacher to partner, from giving up her dreams to living them in a different way. She thought about her mother, who'd passed away peacefully 6 months ago, surrounded by family in the same facility where she'd received excellent care thanks to the foundation. She'd had a good final year. She'd met Lily. She'd heard Sophia play one last time. She'd died knowing her daughter was happy. She thought about her grandfather, who'd taught her that music was about emotional truth, that the greatest performances came from having the courage to be real. And she thought about Marcus, who'd started as a stranger, become a mistake, and somehow ended up as her partner in every sense of the word. "What are you thinking about?" Marcus asked. "That I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be," Sophia said. "Finally." "Me too," Marcus said. "Me too." Outside, through the windows of the practice room, Sophia could see students arriving for evening classes. Young musicians with dreams and challenges coming to a place where they'd be seen and supported and encouraged. Coming to a place where music and family weren't opposing forces but two parts of the same beautiful whole. This was the legacy, not just hers or Marcus's or even her grandfather's, but all of them together, creating something that would outlast them all. Sophia began to play again, and Marcus stayed beside her, listening, just as he'd promised, just as he always would. What did you think of Sophia and Marcus's story? Leave your thoughts in the comments. Rate this story from 0 to 10. What score would you give it? Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to follow all our stories. And check out more emotional stories by clicking right here on the final screen.